Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about a struggle that I think we have all faced. That massive gap between wanting to study and, actually being able to focus. Let's dive into why that happens and, way more importantly, how we can fix it.
You know that feeling, right? You sit down at your desk, you're full of determination, you're telling yourself, okay, today is the day I am going to focus. And then, poof. It's like you blink and an hour has just vanished into this black hole of social media, and you have absolutely nothing to show for it, except a really long scroll history.
It is such a frustrating cycle, isn't it? You start off with the best intentions, maybe you even write a couple of lines, but then your phone buzzes or some random thought pops into your head, and suddenly you are 10 videos deep down some rabbit hole. And then what comes next? That all too familiar wave of guilt.
But listen, here is the most important thing I want you to hear today. This is not a personal failure. Seriously, it's not about you lacking willpower. The real problem is that you are trying to force your brain to work in a way that it just wasn't designed for. You're fighting against its natural wiring instead of working with it. So today, we're going to fix that. We are going to arm you with a brand new toolbox. 7 really powerful psychology-based tools. And these are not just some abstract theories. These are practical, science-backed strategies to make learning more efficient, longer-lasting, and you know what? Maybe even a little bit easier.
All right, first up, we have got to make the information matter to you. This whole section is about taking that abstract knowledge from a textbook and making it so personal that your brain literally can't ignore it.
Okay, so imagine you're at a super crowded, really noisy party. There are dozens of conversations happening all around you, and you're tuning most of them out. But then, from all the way across the room, you hear someone say your name, and instantly, your attention just snaps right to it. Well, that's the cocktail party effect. Your brain is hardwired to filter the world for what's relevant to you.
So how can we use this for studying? Simple. We have to give our brain a reason to turn on that attention filter. We do that by attaching a personal tag to new information. If a topic just feels like boring background noise, you have to link it to something you actually care about. For example, that dry economic concept of supply and demand, well, it becomes unforgettable when you connect it to that time you desperately tried to buy tickets for a sold-out concert. See? Suddenly, it's not some abstract theory anymore, it's a vivid personal memory.
And this leads us right into a very similar idea, the self-reference effect. To put it kind of bluntly, our brain is naturally a bit selfish. It gives top priority, VIP status to any piece of information that relates to our own identity, our memories, and our sense of self.
And applying this is incredibly practical. Don't just memorize the definition of a word like resilient. Weave it into your identity. Think to yourself, I am resilient because I finished that tough project under a crazy deadline. Learning about something like operant conditioning, connect it to that memory of getting a reward for cleaning your room when you were a kid. That personal story will cement the concept way better than any textbook ever could.
Okay, so now that we know how to make information stick, how do we actually sit down and start learning it in the first place? This next section is all about taming your attention span.
I absolutely love this analogy. Just think of your attention as a single, powerful spotlight on a dark stage. It can light up one thing brilliantly, but when it does, everything else just fades away into the shadows. That's exactly how focus works.
And this shows exactly why multitasking is a total myth. When you think you're doing 2 things at once, you're actually just forcing that poor spotlight to jump back and forth frantically. And every single time it switches, it costs you mental energy. It makes you slower, less accurate, and way more exhausted. So how do we keep that spotlight steady? Here are 3 super simple but really powerful techniques. First is the Pomodoro technique. You do these intense 25-minute sprints of pure focus, then you take a short 5-minute break. Second, the clearing ritual. Create a clean, distraction-free space that sends a clear signal to your brain that it's time to work. And third, break it down. Don't try to write a whole paper. Just focus on writing one single perfect sentence to start. Now, for beating procrastination, we've got another fantastic tool, the Zeigarnik effect. This is the psychological reason our brains get obsessed with open loops. You know that nagging feeling you get when you leave a task half done? Your brain just keeps reminding you about it, kind of pushing you to finish it. We can actually turn this on its head and use it against procrastination. The hardest part is just starting, right? So don't even think about finishing. Just tell yourself you'll read 1 page, or you'll just write 1 paragraph. Because once you start, the Zeigarnik effect kicks in, creating this mental pull to keep going. You can even use the open loop trick on purpose. Stop yourself right in the middle of a sentence. I guarantee you, the next day your brain will be eager to close that loop for you.
So, you've made the information personal, and you've learned how to master your focus to actually learn it. But what's the point if you just forget it all by next week? Our final section is all about locking that knowledge in for the long haul.
We've all done it, the all-night cramming session before a big exam, only to have it all vanish from our brains a day later? The spacing effect explains why this is such a bad strategy. Your brain needs time to consolidate memories. Just think of it like watering a plant. If you dump a whole bucket of water on it at once, most of it just runs off. But if you water it a little bit each day, the roots grow deep and strong. Well, your memory works the exact same way. So instead of one massive, painful study session, space your reviews out over time. Do a quick review the next day, then again in a few days, then a week later, and so on. Every single review strengthens that memory pathway, locking it in for good.
The difference is really dramatic. Cramming feels productive in the moment, but it just creates these weak, brittle, short-term memories that disappear. Spacing takes a little planning, yeah, but it is the proven way to build strong, durable, long-term knowledge that actually lasts.
You've heard the saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? Well, dual coding theory is basically the science behind why that's true. Your brain has two separate channels for processing information, one for words and one for images. When you can get both of them working at the same time, you create a much richer, much stronger memory.
Now, this doesn't mean you have to be some amazing artist. Not at all. When you learn a new abstract concept, just sketch a simple little symbol for it. When you learn a new word, draw a tiny picture next to it. Seriously, even a little stick figure works. These small visual aids fire up that second channel in your brain and can literally double your learning power.
Okay, last one. Let's talk about where you study. Your brain doesn't just store facts in a vacuum. It stores the entire environment along with them. The sounds, the sights, even the chair you're sitting in. This is called context-dependent memory. And it explains why you might know an answer perfectly in the quiet library, but then your mind just goes totally blank in the stressful exam hall. The context is different. So try to mix up your study locations. Review your notes in a coffee shop one day, then in your room the next. This trains your brain to recall that information in different contexts, which makes your memory more resilient and easier to access when it really counts.
So, we've covered 7 really powerful psychological tools, from making knowledge personal all the way to locking it in for the long term. These aren't just theories, they are practical strategies for working with your brain, not against it. And that brings us to one last important idea.
Let's just end with this thought. Your brain really is like a garden. Learning isn't about brute force, it's about cultivation. If you plant the right seeds, like these strategies, and you nurture them with consistent, patient effort, you will absolutely see incredible growth.
The most important thing is just to start. You don't have to master all 7 of these at once. Just pick one. So, which tool will you plant in your garden first? Maybe the Pomodoro technique? Or the self-reference effect? Whatever you choose, that choice is your first step to studying smarter, not harder.